This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. www.xzoneradiotv.com is our radio website, and if you'd like to find out all about the X-Zone Broadcast Network, our 24/7, 365 programming, www.xzbn.net. My guest this hour is a gentleman that I have had the pleasure of having on the show many times. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is his name. And Dr. Goldberg holds a BA degree in biology and chemistry, is a doctor of dental surgery from the University of Maryland School of Dentistry, and has a master's degree in counseling psychology. Now, he retired from dentistry and since then has concentrated on his thriving international hypnotherapy practice in Los Angeles, California. He is the author of over 21 best-selling and award-winning books, including Past Lives, Future Lives. This book is the first book ever written on progression hypnotherapy. That's taking patients into their future lives. His second book, The Search for Grace, was made into a television movie by CBS. Dr. Goldberg was a consultant on the film. He is also sought after as a guest and has appeared on many television and radio shows throughout the country, including Oprah, Regis, Jerry Springer, Montel, CNN, CBS, ABC, and the rest of the alphabet soup in the media. His print exposure includes the Washington Post, Time, the Los Angeles Times. He has conducted more than 35,000 past life regressions and future life progressions, and has helped thousands of patients to empower themselves through the use of these valuable techniques. His website, www.drbrucegoldberg.com. And Dr. Bruce, welcome back to the X-Zone, sir. Great having you with us tonight.
My pleasure, Rob. It's a pleasure to reincarnate with your show again. And as we go along, we're going to be discussing several topics tonight, which I'm sure is going to be of interest to your listeners, since I'm very familiar with your audience.
Yeah.
One of the main things I do here in reference to whether it's regression, progressions, or out-of-body experiences, or teleportation, parallel universes that we'll discuss, the key is traveling into the fifth dimension. So what I'd like to do for your audience is to give them an example of, we're going to be discussing this, but I'd like actually people to be able to do this.
Okay.
So here's an offer for your audience. My newest book, Exploring the Fifth Dimension. If they order that book directly from my site, not from a bookstore, but directly from my site, they will get a free CD, Fifth Dimensional Travel, which will guide them into the fifth dimension and allow them to experience the various topics and things and disciplines we'll be discussing this evening. So this way they can not only read about cases and the theory behind this and all kinds of fun stuff, but they can actually do it themselves, leave the body perfectly safe. I've been out of the body over 3,000 times, and I'm here on the earth plane.
And, of course, that book is available on your website at www.drbrucegoldberg.com. At Exonation, that's drbrucegoldberg.com. How frequently do people leave their bodies without knowing it?
Well, interestingly, no. If we go through hypnosis, now let me just, because you'll see everything, it relates to the concept of hypnosis.
Okay.
Hypnosis, remember my medical background now.
Yes.
Hypnosis is an alpha brainwave. So you can call it different names. You can call it yoga, meditation, biofeedback, psycho-cybernetics, your mother's genetics. You can call it anything you want. But alpha is alpha. Now, when you go through the day, the typical day, you may daydream. You're driving in the car on the freeway. You don't remember the exit you passed by, or you're watching a TV show or a film, and you're really interested in it. And all of a sudden, an hour goes by, 2 hours go by. You don't realize moment to moment. If I was to sit next to you and put you on electroencephalograph, you'd be an alpha. That's hypnosis. So a daydream or hypnosis is natural. Now, this is when it gets fun and a lot of fun. When you go to sleep at night. And let's say the average person sleeps for 7 or 8 hours a night. You're actually spending 3 hours into what we call the REM cycle, which is the dream levels, the rapid eye movements is what REM stands for. REM cycle and dreams are all, I repeat, all out-of-body experiences. So out-of-body experiences are a natural part of our 24-hour cycle, especially the sleep cycle. There's no danger involved. The only question here, and this is the key part, this is very important for your listeners, is that when most people, when the average person goes to sleep at night, they usually worry about things. They worry about the economy, they argue with their spouse, their kids, they worry about taxes, money, whatever. When they do that, their soul is going to leave their body through what we call the third chakra, which is the solar plexus chakra.
All right, the soul is going to leave the body through the third chakra. We have to take our break here, Doctor. Please stand by. Exonation, the one and only Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our very special guest this hour here in the X Zone. And if you'd like to take advantage of the good doctor's book and CD offer, go to his website at www.drgoldberg.com. And Dr. Bruce and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue broadcasting around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Exonation, Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our special guest this hour. www.drbrucegoldberg.com is his website, and that is where you can find the book CD special that the good doctor has for you. And the CD will teach you how to have out-of-body experiences, and I believe you said go into the fifth dimension. But before we get to the fifth dimension, when we went to the break, we were talking about how the soul leaves at night through the fourth chakra. Am I correct?
No, it's actually the third chakra.
It's third
the solar
chakra.
Plexus chakra.
Right.
And remember, when it leaves, where does it go? It goes into the fifth dimension, you see. So the dream levels, when you're going out of the body, most people go to the astral plane. But here's the thing now. If you leave through the third chakra, because let's say you're worried about things or you're not doing anything spiritual or positive,
right,
then you're going to go to the lower astral plane, where you're going to be in a bad neighborhood for 3 hours, and you're going to be attacked by lower astral entities. We call these psychic attack or psychic.
Right.
I call them psychic terrorists, actually. So you want to leave through preferably the crown chakra, just above the crown of the head, the seventh chakra, or the fourth, fifth, or sixth. Those are fine, too. Those are the higher chakras, and that will take you into the upper astral, where you can work with your higher self, you can heal, you can grow spiritually, you can connect with lost loved ones, you can do all kinds of fun things that are very spiritual. So the thing is, when you go through, they're using the CD that I mentioned, which they get if they order the books on my site. There are psychic protection techniques on there to prevent them from going to the lower astral. So basically, you always want to go to the upper astral, which will be a natural experience, and it'll have a much, you might say, happier ending to your dream cycle. So when you go into the fifth dimension, by the way, there's a term I want you to, your listeners to know. It's called ultra-terrestrial. When you are traveling into the fifth dimension, you're not an extraterrestrial, you are an ultra-terrestrial. So that's a new term.
Ultra-terrestrial.
Now, people also go through what I call during the waking day. Let's say, a lot of my listeners and fans, and a lot of people, they practice out-of-body experiences while they're sitting in a chair or lying down in the bed or on a couch or something, and they feel like they're experiencing something, but they're not out of the body. So there's a term that I use called IBE. That stands for an in-the-body experience. You are using your fifth dimensional senses, but you're still from the perspective of your physical body. That is perfectly natural. In fact, it's a prerequisite for going into the full-blown out-of-body experience. So when you're practicing techniques like that, that's a good sign. Like you're sitting in a chair and you see like maybe your astral hand lifting off from your regular hand, but you're still in the chair. You see, that's called an IBE. So those are very positive experiences that will allow you to have conscious memories of a full-blown out-of-body experience.
Fascinating.
Now, the idea of going out of the body also has one other advantage, and that is the advantage of time travel. When you're into the fifth dimension, there's no time as we know it. All time is simultaneous. So you can actually perceive past lives. You could perceive future lives. You could do parallel universes. We'll talk about cases like that. You can do teleportation. You can do anything that you want that fits into what we call the psychic or sixth sense definition. And so when people want to do past life regression or progressions, you go into the fifth dimension and you can do it. So speaking of going into time travel, the most famous case I've ever had about taking a person into a past life is one that was actually made into a CBS movie. It was actually documented by CBS. And it was worked on a patient years ago who, a young, attractive professional woman, was obsessively attracted to a married man she was having an affair with, and he tried literally to murder her on 3 different occasions, and she couldn't break up with him. I mean, this was a very serious case. And so she came to me to help her resolve this and get over this thing and, go on with her life. As it turns out, we did a whole bunch of regressions, 46 actually altogether. In 20 of those, she was murdered by the same guy in different lives.
My goodness.
Spanning about 2,500 years. Finally, the most recent life, and this is interesting to you and your audience, took place in Buffalo, New York. How's that?
Well, that's pretty close.
Over the pond.
Yeah, over the pond, yeah.
Okay, and this case took place on May 17th, 1927, where she was murdered by this guy named Jake, who was actually a mafia bootlegger, and that was fully documented by CBS, and it was a great case, and it was her most recent life. When she reviewed that, and we did some what I call cleansing or healing techniques, that case was done over 25 years ago. She's alive today, broke up with the gentleman, use that term loosely, relatively quickly, and was able to empower herself and go on with her life. So that's my most famous case, not only because it was a great case, but because it was fully documented by an independent agency, namely CBS Television, and they're not in the business of promoting me, so they did a pretty darn good job, 3 weeks of research to do this. So that's my most famous case. Going into the future now, which is interesting, is that the opposite. And this is where you go into the fifth dimension. Remember, I told you all time is simultaneous.
Yep.
So I want to go back in time to 1996. It was early June. A young college graduate, just graduated from college in New York City, comes out to L.A. She wants to go out of the body. She knows about my work, and she's a great patient. As I'm working with her, she's learning how to do out-of-body experiences. And as she's in town in L.A. for the 5 days she was here, she goes into the out-of-body experience, the fifth dimension, and she sees events that are going to happen the next day or 2 while she's here, and they come true. So she's got a very good track record, right? Okay, so now she goes home. We're all done by Friday. I said, bye-bye, have a nice life. Everything is fine. You did great. Now she calls me up, and 1996 is relevant for the year. You'll see why in a moment. So she calls me up at the end of June. She goes, Doctor, I call her Tammy, not her real name. She goes, Doctor, this is Tammy. I got an emergency. And I said, Tammy, I retired from dentistry to get away from that. What's going on? And she said, I use your techniques, use your CD to go into the fifth dimension. I want to see how my trip to Paris is going to be. She's going to go to Paris the last half of the summer to, hang out and then go to graduate school.
Sure.
And I said, so what's the problem? She goes, I see myself taking off from JFK, next month. Plane goes up in the air, immediately crashes. I die, everybody dies.
Oh, my God.
So I said, Tammy, look, I don't want to run your life, but let me give you a non-hypnotic suggestion. Change your flight plans, okay? Call me to the end of the summer, okay? She goes, wow, that's a great idea, okay? She's a millennial, okay? Yeah. So the end of August, a hot day in August, I'm swimming in my pool, and my phone goes off, and there's Tammy. She goes, Doc, this is Tammy. Can I talk to you? And I said, sure, what's up? She goes, I want to thank you. And she told me something I never want a patient to ever tell me. She says, Doctor, you saved my life. And I said, no, I am not God. What's going on? She was going to go on TWA Flight 800 originally. July 17th, 1996, TWA Flight 800 took off from JFK as she perceived. Went up in the air, immediately crashed. 230 people died. Yeah. All crew, all passengers. She would have been 231. So not only is going into hypnosis and out-of-body experience not dangerous, it literally saved her life. I didn't, her higher self did. But the point is, this is time travel, and this is a documented event. Everybody knows about TWA Flight 800.
Sure.
So these are examples of how you can go into the future as well as the past, and you can perceive things.
Is this how psychics do their psychic predictions, by actually time traveling?
Well, what they're doing, they're doing something a little different. They're doing something a little bit more efficient. They're actually reading your Akashic records. Now, the Akashic records are sort of like a chart. Everybody has all events, past, present, parallel, and future, that you have ever occurred or will occur or have occurred in your life is actually recorded in what we call the Akasha.
Right.
And the Akasha is it's really basically a fifth-dimensional computer kind of record system that's kept on what we call the causal plane. It's one of the dimensions in the fifth dimension, other than this one. And so what a psychic is doing is it's sort of like tapping into a computer screen and doing a little research and just tapping into your Akasha. And that's how they read that. They don't have to do time travel because that would be a lot more inefficient, and it would be very difficult to do that on a repeated basis. So a good, talented psychic, and there are many on this planet, they simply are very expert at just simply tapping right into the Akasha and then just looking up your records. Okay, this is what's going to happen.
How long does it actually take, Doctor, once you have mastered the technique to start going into your future?
Oh, once you are used to hypnosis and going into the fifth dimension, and again, you can read your own Akashic records. They're all, you can, even though they're stored technically on the causal plane, and I'll answer your question in a moment, you can access the causal records on any dimension, from the Akashic records on any dimension, including the earth plane. But once you get used to the technique with a little experience, you can then start tapping in within a matter of just maybe 5 minutes. It's very quick. Once you're in there and you're used to it, just like, if you work out, it doesn't take long for you to get back into shape and to hit the tennis ball or whatever you're doing. It's a matter of conditioning and experience and also confidence, because most people feel either they can't do it or they just they have fears that they're going to hurt themselves or die or not come back or whatever. That's never going to happen. No one has ever been harmed with hypnosis in the history of it.
Is there a danger, Dr. Bruce, if somebody goes into the future, that they come back with knowledge that could totally change the world and the existing future?
Well, interesting enough, it's a good question, and the answer is the term is called forbidden knowledge. So if you remember, I don't control the universe, neither do you. It's controlled by perfect beings. The higher self is part of the God energy complex, and there are spirit guides. We call this the White Brotherhood, is the general term for the positive entities out there. And if there was a piece of knowledge that you were to bring back that would harm the world, you would not get it. The universe would prevent you or block you from getting it. So you're never going to have a problem doing that. Even when I talk about things like time travel, smart future, which is part of my work here, when time travelers come back, they could really mess up our planet.
Sure.
I mean, by causality issues,
Yep.
right? And causing tears in the fabric of space-time, we call that. But they don't do that, okay? They just simply don't. They're smart enough, and they're also far more advanced. Time travelers, by the way, contrary to what Hollywood tells you, we're not going to have time travelers in the next 5 years, like watching an X-Phone, Twilight Zone episode or any of the Fox shows. It's going to be in the year about 3050 when a man named Tatos, T-A-T-O-S, develops time travel by developing what's called a wormhole linear accelerator, which is a machine that actually enlarges a wormhole to classic size and allows, lined with exotic matter, and then allows a team with a ship, etc., to go back in time. I detail the complete mechanisms and cases in my Time Travel Smart Future book and my Egypt book, if your listeners want to read about the details of that. And so you don't have to worry about forbidden knowledge. Even in your case, in Tammy's case, if she wasn't supposed to know that, let's say she was supposed to die.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it wasn't happening.
Sure.
She would have never gotten that information. Okay? She would have just had an experience of, meeting somebody for dinner sometime or doing something else. She would have never known about that. So the universe simply decided, not me and not her individually, that she should survive and she should live to say about it. Just like, what if I didn't go into hypnosis and I practiced dentistry for the rest of my life? We wouldn't be having a conversation,
Yeah,
right?
I understand
A lot of
yeah.
things wouldn't have happened. So basically, the universe is not, contrary to the entropy theory, which I always have a problem with, the universe is actually very well organized. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the organization of the universe. And you ever study the history of this planet as well as the evolution of our species, we shouldn't be here. There's a lot of things that happened that didn't have to happen. So I'm a real I'm optimist about the way the universe works.
So if time travel isn't invented until the year 3000, how are we able to time travel now?
Okay, so remember, we don't invent it, we discover it, just like we didn't invent fire.
All right, sure.
We discovered it, okay?
Yeah.
Electricity, okay, all right. Just so you listen. So basically, when there's different types of time travel. The ones that are non-material, well, let's take one of the material ones first. A machine to go into time travel, to actually do it, just like Tatos developed in the year 3050. Now, if you do the research now, Frank Kepler from Tulane University in America, in Louisiana, 1974, came up with his theory. Kip Thorne from Caltech in Pasadena, the most brilliant guy on this planet, he actually out-debated Stephen Hawking on the existence of black holes. He has his own theory. There's a whole bunch of others that have their own theories. Those are mechanical devices that are needed for time travel. That's why it's going to take time, because you have to line them with exotic matter, which has negative mass, and we don't have that now. We're trying to use super colliders to create that. It's not working very well. However, we're using hypnosis going into the fifth dimension by what I call simply hypnotic techniques. That doesn't require a machine. Anyone can do that, and that's been done forever, all throughout history. The Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, they all did that, okay? And they documented it. So if you're using an alpha technique or hypnotic technique, you can do it, but you're not going to actually, you're observing it from the fifth dimension. You're not being there unless you teleport.
All right.
With machines, you actually move the body there.
Okay, stand by, my good friend. You and I have to take our break. Exonation, Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our special guest for his special book CD offer. Visit his website. Plus, his website is filled with fascinating information. www.drbrucegoldberg.com. And the good doctor and I will return after this news break right here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our special guest. His website is www.drbrucegoldberg.com. Visit his site out, filled with wonderful information. And if you go to his website, he has a special book CD offer for you. That's at www.drbrucegoldberg.com. Okay, so when you bring somebody to the fifth dimension using hypnosis, is it like they're just visiting it, that they're really not there?
Well, no, they are there. They're there in their spiritual body.
Okay.
So what happens is that, think of the dream cycle at night. Remember, this is a natural system.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to sleep at night, you're not being trained. People don't have to go through hypnotic training or use CDs to go to sleep, right?
Nope.
They go to sleep naturally, right? And then the soul leaves the body, the soul, which is the subconscious mind, or the alpha, which is an alpha brainwave. And by the way, what is the soul? We have scientific evidence. A very good friend of mine, William Tiller from Stanford University, Professor Emeritus, and many others, Rupert Sheldrake from England, and others have documented this. The soul is electromagnetic radiation. It's like a TV or a computer signal. Basically, that's what the soul is. Or dark matter is another physics term they would use to describe it. So we know it exists. So at night, what happens is the soul leaves the body, but it leaves a clone of itself, like an alias on a computer. So your body's protected from being possessed. If people are worried about that, that'll never happen unless you do something really stupid. Okay, you have to go into black magic techniques, or rituals. That's a whole different ballgame. So what you do is you go into the fifth dimension. So now you're observing the earth plane from a different dimension. So you're not affecting the earth plane, you're just observing it. You see, you're just like watching television rather than being there, okay? But when you teleport, which we're going to discuss too, that's a different ballgame. When you teleport, you're actually entering into the fifth dimension and physically moving from one location to another. But let's talk about the fifth dimension for a moment. When you're in the fifth dimension, just so your listeners don't get scared when they use my CD, who do you meet there? What kinds of entities are you going to meet in the fifth dimension? Well, you're going to meet one. You can meet departed souls. These are loved ones that you've lost who've clinically crossed into spirit or died, and they have an astral body, a spiritual body. You can meet them and actually overcome bereavement by doing that. It's a very therapeutic healing technique just by meeting them and just having them communicate with you. By the way, all communication is telepathic in the fifth dimension. Okay, no one's going to yell at you. Okay, you can have people who are having near-death experiences. People who have clinically died for a matter of a few minutes. And they're traveling into the fifth dimension, and you can see them. You can actually help them get back into their body, too. You can meet spirit guides, your own spirit guides. We have guides that help us grow spiritually. We have, like, chemist guides that help the body with disease. We have relationship guides, abundance guides, all kinds of guides. There's a whole bunch of them out there. You can meet angels, messengers directly from the God energy complex that were never human. By the way, spirit guides were human at one time. Now they're in between lives, and they're more spiritually evolved than us. That's why they can assist us. You can meet your own higher self, which is the ultimate, because your higher self is you in your perfect form, which you will eventually merge with when you ascend, and it comes directly from the God energy complex. So you always want to be with your higher self. And that's a technique I use when I work with my healing technique with my patients. I call this a superconscious mind tap. To do that, you can meet fellow fifth dimension voyagers, or what I call ultra-terrestrials, other people practicing techniques. You can meet extraterrestrials, the good ones like the Pleiadians or the Arcturians, not the lower ones like the Greys or the Reptilians if you stay on the upper astral plane. And you can also meet time travelers. When time travelers come back in time to our time period, they're traveling through the fifth dimension, again, through wormholes. So you can meet them too. And they're a lot of fun. They're very advanced, they're very spiritual, very smart, and they're here for our best interests. By the way, for your listeners too, if they go to my site, there's lots of articles on this. There are videos to show how people have actually gone through these experiences, met time travelers, I work with ET abductees, people have gone to past and future lives. All those are illustrated by actual hypnotic sessions that they can see for free on the site too. So it gives them an idea about what these things look like. But the whole point of this is that what do you think is the number one lesson as a soul we're supposed to learn to eventually get out of the karmic cycle, the reincarnation cycle, and rejoin the God energy complex? The number one lesson is overcome fear. That's it. If you overcome fear, you're golden. The problem is the universe that we live in, the society we live in, tends to promote a lot of fear.
So how do you...
accessing your higher self, accessing your higher self will help you to overcome fear because you're going to become confident, empowered. You're going to spiritually protect yourself from negative energy, and therefore you can attain the goals that you're supposed to be here to accomplish.
Wow. So it sounds like we have all the answers right in front of us. All we need to do is learn how to use them.
You know, think of it as like going to school. Let's say you're in college, and let's say you're a young 17 or 18-year-old, and you're a freshman in college. And first you're going to be overwhelmed by saying, oh, my goodness, look at all the stuff I have to learn.
Yep.
You have textbooks and lab books and notebooks and all kinds of stuff. If you do your homework, if you study and discipline yourself, you'll graduate, okay? And you may even get some very good grades. But if you just get overwhelmed by it out of fear, the F word here, right, then you're going to have problems. So, you see, we have the armamentarium. We're given this by our own higher self and the white brotherhood, as we call that. By the way, for your listeners out there, this isn't a racist term. It's just the way it's described, okay? You know, it's just the way that the metaphysical writers over the generations, hundreds of years, have described this. But I want to discuss something your listeners may not be familiar with, and I want to differentiate between what we call a parallel life versus a parallel self. Now, a parallel life, if you go into the fifth dimension, you may, if you want, and I train people to do this, you may experience one of your own parallel lives.
Wow.
That would be yourself, identical DNA. You look exactly the way. You could be a little heavier, a little lighter or something, that's true, but you're going to look the same. And you're living in a parallel universe. Now, we know parallel universes are real. It comes out of Einstein's theory of relativity. It comes out of the M theory, all the string theories. So the parallel universes is not an argument in the scientific field anymore. So you actually are living in parallel universes, and there are parallel universes where things really didn't happen the way we have happened in our current universe, okay? All right, so living in a parallel universe is called a parallel life, all right? And so I'm going to give you a quick example of this. I was working with a young teenager, and she was 60 years old, right? And she had an assignment in school, which was to investigate and write a report on the year 1968. Now, you know, in America, that was a very tumultuous year.
Sure was.
For lots of reasons, okay, right? All right, so she decides, because, now she contacted my office, and she ordered I have a technique called Custom Design Your Own Destiny, which is a CD album which takes you into parallel universes. And she decided to use that to kind of like get an idea, maybe to cheat on her assignment. So she goes, she plays the CDs, and she comes out of trance, and all of a sudden she's watching television, and guess who's president of the United States in 1968? Robert F. Kennedy.
Wow.
So she knows she's not in Kansas anymore.
That's right.
And not only was Robert F. Kennedy not assassinated, and as she's going through the cycle of this 1968 and beyond, she finds that the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam by 1970. There was no Nixon presidency. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1986. In other words, a lot of things were different.
Yeah.
Now, she looked exactly the same. So she comes out of trance, and now she figures, okay, I'm hungry now. I'm a teenager. It's like late afternoon. So she goes into the kitchen. Her mother's making dinner or having a snack, and the mother and her communicate, and she says, this is weird. The mother looks exactly like her mother, but she's acting very differently. So she figures, maybe I'm still on the same universe, which she was. So she goes back to her room, uses the CDs again, comes back out of trance, and now she's back in her current universe. So she experienced a parallel life.
Wow.
Okay? Now, the difference is to differentiate that from a parallel self, and this is where my work gets a tad unique. A parallel self is your soul's energy is occupying more than one body on the earth plane now at one time. So you can be female versus male, you can be old versus young, vice versa. So that's called a parallel self. Okay, so it's not the same DNA, it's the same soul. So I worked with a salesman from Cleveland, from Baltimore many years ago, and he used to go to the Midwest. He used to go to Cincinnati to do his sales thing, as well as other places in between, but he never went north of Cincinnati. So while we're working on doing he wanted to go into past lives, he wanted to go into the, other things. He comes up with a life in Cleveland, not Cincinnati. Cleveland's several hundred miles north of it, in which he is a female. He gets the address. He gets the telephone number. He gets everything. He says, Doc, what is this? This is me in Cleveland now. This is ridiculous. And I said, look, you're going to go to Cincinnati on one of your assignments. Why don't you just call her? You got the information, and schmooze with her. You're a salesman. Meet her. See what happens. So he does that, okay? And she agrees to meet him. He says it was the weirdest freaking meeting he ever had in his entire life. He said it was like they both were completing each other's sentences. They both had the same interests and dislikes. He says it was weird, and she felt weird too. So he met his parallel life. So that's the difference between a parallel life and a parallel.
Is there any chance that when someone is either in their parallel life or seeing their parallel self, that they would actually get caught in that loop of time and not return to this dimension?
This is the good news. The good news is no. I've never had a patient ever had that. They always come back. In fact, usually they want to stay longer when it's very positive. So it becomes a little frustrating on them in the sense that they don't want to come back so much. The other thing is that just like when I do with teleportation techniques, and I want to discuss that next. When people teleport, they don't teleport in the middle of a mountain and suffocate or underwater and drown. They always teleport when they are. No one's ever been harmed by teleportation. So people are worried about doing that. They don't ever have to be concerned. In fact, teleportation is something. Do we have a few moments to discuss
We've got about 2.5 minutes before we go for our final break.
So we'll continue it after the break, but I want to just describe, this is what one of my patients described as the actual feeling of teleportation, because they teleported, and I've done that myself, and we'll discuss it after the break. But this is what it feels like. Quote, "It was as though something twisted my body. It felt almost like I was caught in a giant web. Suddenly, the world exploded into countless billions of glowing threads. I could now perceive that the strange twisting sensation that I was experiencing as correlated with the motion of these threads, and they were in constant motion. The overall effect was very similar to looking at a hologram, except it was visceral as well as visual. You could see/feel the experience. Part of me was totally confused, and another part was completely familiar with whatever this was. There was a very odd sense of my consciousness being split." This is what teleportation feels like. And I've done this myself, and I can tell you right now that this guy was absolutely quite accurate as to how it experiences. So teleportation is something that people can do. It's not dangerous. It's a very difficult thing to do, the hardest thing to do, but it has its advantages in reference to, it's a very spiritual experience. And it's been reported all throughout history, by the way. So it's not something that just came up in the last 20 years.
So it sounds as if that what you're talking about, teleportation as well as going to the parallel life, is just as simple as going to sleep.
Well, actually, it's more complicated because it's a technique, and remember, there's forbidden knowledge too. So if you're going to go into the fifth dimension and have a dream in which you dream into the future, you're not supposed to know that consciously, because that would be like cheating, and the universe will never allow us to cheat. So that's going to be blocked out. See, most people I know, they want to have conscious memories of their out-of-body experience. They just don't want to go to sleep and just wake up the following morning and say, okay, I logged in 3 hours of REMs. They want to know, what did I do? I want to see the Earth from a different perspective. They want to and the main advantage of this is to overcome the fear of death. See, that's the key, because when you clinically die, you just change dimensions. It's not, you don't lose, the soul is eternal. It's the physical body that will fertilize the lawn. Yes, I agree with that as a medically trained person. But the soul is eternal and can never be destroyed. Once energy is created, even conventional physics will tell you can never destroy energy. You can just change its form.
Dr. Goldberg, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break. Exo Nation, Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our very special guest this hour. Don't forget his special offer. If you go to his website, you can get a copy of his new book and CD by going to www.drbrucegoldberg.com. And Dr. Bruce and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. Visit our radio website, xzoneradiotv.com, and the website for the X Zone Broadcast Network, where you can find out who's on, when, and the different types of great shows we have on our hosts. Go to xzbn.net. We'll be back. Don't go away. Hi, everyone. Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well, now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is our special guest, www.drbrucegoldberg.com. All right, tell us about teleportation.
Okay, well, first, here's an example. Teleportation, just to define it, is you're going into the 5th dimension, but what's occurring is versus an out-of-body experience is your physical body is moving from one location to another. And what the way this happens, actually, forget about Star Trek. You don't come across like little sparkles and disappear. That's nice for Hollywood, but that's not the way it works. Okay? It is a nice visual effect, though.
It is.
Okay, what happens is that there are tears in the fabric of space-time. There are many cases of teleportation where somebody's walking down the street and all of a sudden they're 1,000 miles away where
Yeah.
they were, and they don't know how they got there. What they did was they went into a tear in the fabric of space-time. It's equivalent if you're actually going through a wormhole and you're zipping around, just like you can have ETs come from Zeta Reticuli, which is 25 light years away, and they can come here in a matter of minutes by entering a wormhole and zipping across the universe. Physics will perfectly describe that. So here's an example of a woman. I call her Vivian. This is a real case and a very significant one. This is a young woman. She came to me for a lot of reasons. She had a lot of emotional problems, but mostly she had this really jerk she was dating. The guy, she couldn't break up with him. Another case where she couldn't break up with him, all right? And he was physically abusive to her, psychologically abusive, etc. So I trained her, and she wanted to do teleportation. So I trained her in the art of teleportation, which is an extremely difficult technique to do. And just warn your audience about that. Okay, so now she's traveling with her boyfriend on the freeway here in Los Angeles, and they get into an argument, which was not unusual in their relationship. And he opens up the door, kicks her, and throws her out on the freeway going 70 miles an hour. Okay?
Yeah.
She lands on the freeway, twists her ankle so she can't run. A car is coming in the opposite direction at about 75 miles an hour, and she's going to die. So what does she do? She uses the post-hypnotic technique that I trained her with, and the next thing she knows, she's sitting on the couch in her living room with a twisted ankle. Now, the boyfriend and then the guy in the car who was opposing her both said, she disappeared. This is, where is this person? You don't just disappear in front of, witnesses, right? All right, so she was able to use the technique to move from the freeway back to her apartment and literally saved her life. And eventually she broke up with her boyfriend, by the way, and she eventually met somebody else, a Mr. Right, thank goodness. So this is an example of teleportation. I've done this myself, and I'll give you a personal example to show you it's not just my patients' stories. I used to live in Baltimore, Maryland, which, if you know Baltimore, it gets very cold in the wintertime.
It certainly does. Just off the Chesapeake Bay, that water can...
That's a big bay.
Yeah.
Chessie is there, too. Okay. So it was between Christmas and New Year's, and I just wanted to get out of there. I just hate cold weather.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Montego Bay, Jamaica. It was one of my favorite vacations. So I decided to take use my own CDs here and lie on my couch in my living room, dressed in my bathing suit with my little Zoris and my transistor radio, while my dogs are looking at me like I'm weird because it's like the middle of the winter, right? And the next thing I know, it's a Sunday, by the way. It was during playoff time, football games, right?
Yeah.
So next thing I know, I come out of my trance and I'm on the beach in Montego Bay, right? And I'm walking along there, and just a few feet in front of me, or maybe 20 feet in front of me, there's this kind of young, attractive brunette, like a college student, lying on the beach. And I'm right near her. So she looks at me, she goes, "Where did you come from? You can't run fast on the beach, And I said, "Well, I travel pretty quickly. Do you mind if I put my towel down?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, okay." So we're talking and having a good time, And then a few hours go by, and she says, "How long are you going to be in town?" And I said, "Well, my flight leaves soon." Okay. So she goes, "Okay." So the next thing I know, I'm back on my couch. My dogs come up to me, and they're licking my face, like, "Where have you been?" You say, well, okay, this could have been a dream. It could have been an out-of-body experience, except a couple of things. Number one, I have a big mirror in my living room. I have a suntan.
Wow.
You don't get a suntan in Baltimore, Maryland on December 28th. Okay?
That is so true. Yep.
But there's also sand in my Zoris. There's also my bathing suit is wet with sand in it, okay? You got that? You got all that coming up. That's teleportation.
Big question here. Big question. Did you get her telephone number?
Yes, but I think it was from a parallel universe. No, I didn't. Remember, I left too soon. Okay. This is called, okay. So my point is that I've had patients who've teleported to various parts of the world.
Right.
And now remember the case of Vivian. She was thinking of her place. She says, this is like Dorothy, go, click your heels and go home. When she was on the freeway about to be killed, the safest place she thought of was her apartment. So you can actually control where you teleport to. You see?
Wow.
So I was thinking of Montego Bay, Jamaica, my best vacation in those days, and guess where I teleported to? Montego Bay, Jamaica. You see how it works? So you can actually control that once you learn the technique. And it's a very difficult technique, but when it works, for your listeners, if they're interested, I have something called the Time Travelers Training Program CD album, which trains you to go out of the body, and the final level is, of course, teleportation. So it's a beautiful experience, and all these experiences, just to reinforce it, are perfectly safe. They're very spiritual. They will help you grow spiritually, And in many cases, you can use these for healing purposes, which is what I do in my practice here in Los Angeles. So I also, for the benefit of your listeners, do a lot of sessions, most of my sessions by computer, by Skype and FaceTime. So if they want to see me and don't want to fly to L.A., we can do this by computer, which is what I do all day long here anyway.
What is the actual mechanism behind teleportation?
Well, again, it's like just think of it this way: the time travelers from the 31st to the end of the 34th century. When they came back in time, they used the wormhole linear accelerator, and what that did, the disadvantage of that, or the side effects of that, was it caused tears in the fabric of space-time. You know those Fortean phenomena where, like, fish fall from the sky and all these kind of weird things that happen? That's an example of tears in the fabric of space-time, because you can't explain those logically. There's just no way you can explain these weird things happening. So what happens is that when you're walking down the street, all of a sudden, bingo, you're in the tear in the fabric of space-time, and you will then move from one, if things are right, if everything is cool, you will then move from one place to another, and it can be thousands of miles away, which is physically impossible minus teleportation. We don't travel that fast. So this is something that has been around forever, and that's the mechanism is simply that. You're in a tear in the fabric of space-time, and there are all kinds of tears. By the way, the two countries that have the greatest statistical numbers of cases of teleportation are England and Argentina.
So
why?
if
Nobody knows.
If you were to lay down and like, let's take your example. It's in the middle of December. You lay down with your bathing suit, and you think about going to Montego Bay. You end up in Montego Bay. The fact that you were wearing your bathing suit, the fact that you got a sunburn, if you would have had a digital camera with you, could you have taken pictures and brought those pictures back?
Well, actually, yes, because you bring everything with you. You bring your clothes or lack of. You bring everything with you when you teleport. Now, if I didn't have a camera with me, because that's not what I normally do when I'm on the beach trying to meet a teenager, okay, or a college student. But technically, no, you're right. Okay, it's the difference is, like, people say, what if you're abducted by an ET? Can you bring your camera, your phone there and record it? Well, it's been tried and it never works. But teleportation is very different because, the answer is yes, you could. You could take pictures of Paris or wherever you are and bring back the evidence. The problem is that, remember, you're not going to convince anyone because they could say, well, how do we know you just didn't, take a plane or something or whatever? So you're not going to convince people that are skeptical about it. But the answer is you can bring souvenirs home. Let's say you had a seashell on the shore or a little souvenir, a little tchotchke in some little local shop there while you were shopping there. You could bring those back, and sure, you can, as long as you're holding it, it's going to come back with you.
Is there a connection between teleportation, time travel, and what people call ghosts and visions?
Well, the ghosts and visions are different because ghosts are actually astral bodies or spiritual bodies. So they're not teleporting. But by the way, when you teleport, you can also teleport back or forward in time. Okay. In fact, if I have just a moment, the most documented case of teleportation in the history of mankind occurred in Mexico City. On the evening of October 24, 1593, a Spanish soldier suddenly appeared in the plaza in front of the Palace of Mexico City. His uniform was a Spanish one, which is very different than the Mexican one. Remember, Spain owned as colonies both Philippines as well as Mexico in those days. So they arrested him. They said, "What are you doing here? You're alone. You got your gun. Your uniform is different. Where are you? Who are you with?" And he said, "Oh, I'm nervous." He says, I was one of the guards of the governor of Manila, and he was murdered, and I was trying to protect him, and I couldn't." And they said, "Manila, like the Philippines? What are you, loco?" They took him into jail, and they interrogated him, and they thought he was crazy or possessed, so he brought the Catholic Church in. So now we have the Catholic Church as well as the historians to document this guy. And so they just kept him in jail for 2 months. Now, 2 months later, it's Christmas time. The ship from Manila goes around the world, goes around South America, etc., to go to Mexico, making their trips as they did. The Spanish sent their, ships around, and they bring the news. So when they come into Mexico City, the Spanish armada there, the guy says, "Hey, we got some news here. The governor of Manila was murdered." When? October 24th. Really? We got somebody we'd like you to see. So they bring them to the jail, and he says, "Oh, that's Gil Perez." He was documented as one of the guards in Manila when the governor, Das Gomez Perez das Moranas, was murdered, October 24th, 1593. That's the most documented case of teleportation, because you don't travel from Manila to Mexico City, which is 9,000 miles away, in a matter of moments in 1593. And that's the most documented example of teleportation.
So, Dr. Bruce, as always, whenever you're with us, time goes by so fast. We'll have to have you back on because you've just raised a lot more questions than I anticipated. But thank you so much for joining us. Quickly, tell our listeners about the book CD offer one more time.
Okay, if they go to my site, which is DR, D as in David, R as in Robert, BruceGoldberg.com, and they order the book Exploring the Fifth Dimension, just mention Rob's show here, mention the X Zone, you will get not only the book, but you'll get a free CD called Fifth Dimensional Travel, which will guide you into the fifth dimension so you can explore past and future lives, parallel universes, out-of-body experiences, even train you to teleport. And you'll get autographed copies of the book, of course. And, of course, my site has all the other books and CDs and everything on there. But the free CD goes along with the Exploring the Fifth Dimension. Just remember to mention that you heard it on the X Zone, because that offer is unique.
Dr. Bruce, take care of yourself, my friend. Always great pleasure talking to you, and continued success. And thanks for doing the great work you do.
My pleasure. Take care now.
Good night, Bruce. Exonation, Dr. Bruce Goldberg has been our guest this hour. drbrucegoldberg.com. I'll be back after the news at 6.5 minutes past. Don't go away.